Okay, English one lesson Robinson Crusoe. Okay, so one day when I was going towards my boat, so it is something. There is a background like Robinson Crusoe ship had been destroyed by the sea. He had been alone for many years and longed for company. One day he discovered a footprint on the sand. Let's find out what he did then. So here the author is talking about Robinson Crusoe. So because of his ship was destroyed and he was left in an island, and he stayed there for a long years without any company. Nobody was there. He stayed all alone. And finally, one day, when he came back to his boat, he found a strange footprint. So let's find what he did after that. So you just think about in a house where nobody was there, if you could find something that really you don't expect, like any noise or anything that is found in the house or in a place where you're staying all alone. Nobody was there, nobody is there to help you or support you. You're staying alone. If you find anything strange, how would you feel? So it is something like a fearful experience that the author is explaining about this particular man. Okay, one day when I was going towards my boat, I was surprised to see the footprint of a man on the sand. So one day he was, as usual, he used to go and check the boat and come back. He used to do every day, and that way once he went there, so he found a strange footprint of a man on the sand. See, usually when you walk on the sand, you will find footprint. When you see back, you will find the footprint of your own foot. Okay, and I stood amazed. Amazed means surprised. Okay, and he he was so much surprised, and I listened. I looked around. I could neither hear nor see anything. So surprisingly, he is looking around and keenly watching for any noise or any voice to listen or hear, but he could not find anything, nor even his any voice he could hear. I went up higher to look down. I went up the shore and down the shore. So, but it was no good. I could find no other footprint but that one. See, just imagine the man is staying all alone in a strange land, in an island, and nobody is there but only a strange footprint. So he looks here and there, and he also went top, and looked it down, and he could not see anything. And again he came to the shore, and again he came down, and also little more down, but he didn't find any footprint other than that particular footprint that he saw at first. I went to it again to see if there were any more footprints and to tell if it had been my imagination. So again he went and checked for some other footprint, so that he was simply having an imagination that it is, there is nothing at all but simply an imagination of a footprint. So he checked in again and again and looked for other footprints to find, but he didn't get anything. But I was not mistaken, for there was exactly the footprint of a foot, toes, heel, every part of the foot. I could not imagine how it came there. So he says that he checked twice and thrice, two, three times. He went and checked here and there, and finally he came to a conclusion that he was not mistaken. Mistaken means it was not an imagination. It was a real footprint, and he could see and differentiate there is a foot and toes. Toes means the fingers, hand fingers, we say fingers, but when it comes for the leg fingers, we say toes. Okay, and heel, and every part of the toe, foot is printed over there. So he could not imagine how it came there. I stayed a long time thinking, but became more and more confused. So he was just staying there amazed, and he was thinking and thinking, but he could not find any solution. But totally he was confused. Confused means he could not conclude anything what it could be. So lot of confusion, many questions and many kind of thinking is coming up. So he could not finally finalize anything. At last, I returned home very frightened. Frightened means fearfully. It's a kind of dreadful scene he could see. So finally, he returned home. So he came back to his home where he was staying, looking behind me after every 2 or 3 steps, mistaking every bush and tree to be a man. So when he was returning to his home where he was staying, he was in every step, 2 or 3 steps, he used to see behind him, and he was also frightened to hear any kind of noise of bush or any tree. If he could see anything moving or anything that is shaking, he thought that it is a man, because almost he was frightened. So he was very carefully and fearfully, watching again and again behind him, and he was moving ahead. You just think about, even at the night, what we do. If there is all of a sudden there is a power cut, what do you do? You're on the way to your home, nobody is there, so what would you do? So naturally we will look here and there, and or sometimes what we used to do is we will sing a song, or louder we shout, and we will run. Okay, even if you get little light, then immediately we will run off. So he was also totally frightened or afraid. And when I came to my cave, which I called my castle. So he was staying in a cave, because he was left in an island and there was no people there, and he was staying in a cave. Cave means a place, or we can call it as a hole, in the rock or in a muddy area. Okay, there is a kind of hole that we can go inside and stay, like lion and some animals stay in the caves. Okay, and he used to call it as a castle. It's a kind of wonderful building or house. I ran inside it as if I was being chased. I do not remember whether I used the ladder or went in by the hole in the rock. So he was staying inside a rock. See, this is a kind of cave. Okay, and he was running as fast as he could, as if someone is chasing him. So you just imagine, if any dog is after you, what you will do? You will run as much as possible you can do, right? The same way he was running, imagining that somebody is chasing him. He was that much frightened, and he was totally afraid of something, that really he could not come out of that sight. And he went inside, and even he did not remember how he get into the cave, came to the cave or the hole in the rock where he was staying, which I called the door. I ran for cover faster than any animal could run. So he is explaining that he ran that much of speed than any other animals. So you just imagine, a man is running fearfully to rescue himself from any enemy that he found there somewhere in the seashore. So he came to the place where he stayed, and I did not sleep that night. So he did not sleep throughout the night. The more I thought about what I had seen, the more afraid I became. I thought it could be one of the savages of the mainland who had wandered out of the sea in a small boat. So he could not sleep that night. The more he thought about that scene, and he could not sleep, and he was become totally afraid. And he thought that it could be one of the savages of the mainland who had wandered out to the sea in a small boat. He thought that someone like very brutal or a hard person, who is ready to kill anyone, or very dangerous man who traveled with a small boat and came to this place. Luckily, I was not on the shore at that time. But what if he had seen my boat? If he had seen the boat, he would have realized that someone lived on the island and would soon return with others to kill and eat me. So he is thinking. See, he is developing an imagination that it could be someone that he can he can kill him and eat him up, and someone can attack him. And he is thinking that luckily I was not on the shore when he came to that particular place. If he would have seen him, and he might have gone and come with returned with a lot of other people and killed him and ate him up. So that kind of imagination is running in his mind. And so I lay fearfully for many days. See, it happened not for a single night, it happened for many days, and prayed for protection. So he started to seeking God for his help, because when nobody is there to help you, only God can help you, right? So the same way he had no one to help him, and he was all alone, and day and night he is thinking of the dreadful scene that he has seen on the seashore. And many kind of thinking is coming again and again in his mind, and he is asking help from God because nobody is there to help. In doing so, I was much comforted and began going out to investigate. But even now, as I went forward, I looked behind me frequently because I was still very frightened. So, as he started praying, so he got a little bit comfort, and comfort means his heart was a little bit peaceful, something that got some kind of he felt like some help he got from God. Okay, and after that, what he did again, he went out to investigate, find out what who he was, and find out what whose printout footprint was that. And even after going, he used to look back behind him very frequently. Frequently means very often. Again and again he is looking behind, because still he was afraid. However, as I went about for 2 or 3 days and saw nothing, I became a little bolder. So he went regularly for 2 or 3 days, okay, and he could not find anything. And so he became little bolder, because for after 2 3 days, because he went on for many days, because he did not sleep for many days, and he prayed and came out and looked for someone to find, and he didn't find anyone, and again he is going and coming back. So it happened for many days, and a little bit boldness he developed in within him, because he could not find anyone. I decided to go down to the shore again and examine the footprint once more. I decided to measure it with my own foot mark. So again, so as he got a little bit boldness and courage, so he went again to examine. Examine means find out, and just to check it out whether it is his footprint or someone else. So he went and measured it with his own footmark. So just he placed his footmark over that footmark. See, after these many days long, still that footmark is remaining. See, just imagine. So that's why he went and placed his foot on that mark, As I came closer to the footprint, I realized that it could not be my footprint because I had not come to this part of the beach since a long time. So, as he was about to examine that footprint, so he realized means he understood, came to a conclusion that it could not be his own because he never came to the beach for many long time. Okay, and secondly, as I placed my foot alongside the footprint, it seemed larger than my own. So even after having that conclusion also, he just placed his footprint and checked it, and he found that it is little larger than his footprint. My fear returned. So what could have happened? He said, just imagine. After all, he getting the courage and boldness to examine, again the same fear came into him. I went home again, believing that there was someone there. Again, immediately he went back to his home, where the cave. So, he could finalize that someone came to that island. The island was inhabited. Inhabited means someone came and occupied. Okay, so this is something strange, and it's a kind of story. Okay, and here you have some of the word meanings. Savages means wild people in primitive stage. Okay, it's a kind of wild people. They don't think about anything, simply they will attack or eat you. Okay, mainland, large continuous extent of land. Okay, wandered, go from place to place without a definite route. Okay, so wandering means going here and there. Bolder means more confident. Inhabited means occupied or dwelling in. So finally he came to a conclusion that someone is dwelling in that same island. You got the lesson? Fine. So again you can go through the lesson. Okay, do your reading, and you can understand the lesson very well.